right, and we're gonna transition. Oh shit. Forgot to I was messing around with some of my audio settings. Hopefully this all sounds better. And now I just need to, why does it sound weird? I may have overdone the sound setting. It feels like maybe too much on the low. How's that sound? Okay, that sounds a little bit better. And I just need to take off the monitoring. There we go, monitor off. Now I can't hear myself talk in my ears. Okay, so sorry about a little bit of a late start. I was futzing with my audio settings right before stream. It was one of those things where like, oh look, there's so much time before the stream, and then suddenly there was no time before the stream. Okay, so what is on the docket today? So on the docket today, hi, I am Interactive as well. I am like the only developer currently working at Interactive, and we have released, the royal we have released two games, Eclectic Expansion Enterprise and Castaway Soul. Today, we're going to be working on Castaway Soul because I would like to see about maybe launching that game on mobile as well. And one of the nice side effects of that is if you have like a touchscreen that you can just, you know, run a PC on, you get the nice touchscreen effect. Some of this stuff has already been added. Specifically today, we are going to be adding some more variability to our levels. So let's get right into it. And now I need to figure out, take out studio mode. I need to figure out how to actually capture all the stuff that I want to capture. So it's probably just going to be display. Yes, okay. For this thing, and I'm capturing the cursor. That works, and I just need to put that all the way at the bottom. Come on. Yes, was trying to get all this set up beforehand, and then suddenly there was no longer any time. There we go. Display capture. Is it going way too large? It's going way too large, so we're just gonna fit to screen. Hey, there we go. So as you can see, here we are in Castaway Soul. I've already made a backup, so any changes that we make here, not going to be that much of a problem. Where can what I'm going to do though, we just want to duplicate this scene. Yeah, let's just duplicate. Oh, because this is kind of frustrating. Okay, we're now on a different scene. We're going to remove the game capture. We don't really need that. We're just going to have the display capture, and we're going to take our webcam, and we are going to transform. Come on. We are going to take our camera and we're going to move it all the... I took the webcam frame and not the webcam. Okay. I think moving somewhere here should be fine. For the most part, in Unity, things aren't happening here, so we should be all good. Let's see, transform. This? Yes, okay, now I'm actually looking towards the screen. Oh, it's so weird when stuff's flipped. Okay. Anyway, so what is on the docket today? So on the docket today, what we need to be doing is currently, the way that the game works is you have 30 levels, and as you go through the levels, you build up these chunks, these world sections, if I can find them. We are on the main game scene, so where's my world manager? There's my world manager. So we have these prefabs, a world section. So this is what actually gets spawned every level, and that there is for any kind of boss text or any kind of other text I might want to be adding in. And what we want to do now is we want to add a little bit of variety, because what ends up happening is these get added on one to the other. Let's see if I can get this to go. How can I get this working? No. This? Yes. Present with screen share. Connect to app. Accept. Yeah, okay. There we go. All right, now we have a screen. So what happens is we have a map, and then we are all the time, we are just expanding in more squares, and we're just adding more squares. Now, what that ends up happening is you end up with a very kind of flat map at the end, and I want to change that. So what I want to do is I essentially want to get a bunch of different shapes, preferably from the ones that we already have in the game. So like squares, circles, or capsules, maybe add in some triangles and stuff. And what we want to do is inside these, oh, sweet. Okay, there we go. It shows. So inside these, we want to see about adding in some of these shapes. So then what's going to happen is instead of having this very flat kind of ridge, you know, we'll have some circles in there. We'll have some like triangles. Ooh, what the? I didn't make it. That was weird. We'll have some squares in there, and I think that's going to make for a more interesting game kind of going forward. So that's kind of what's on the docket today. What we want to be doing is very specifically, here's my to-do. So we want to add a terrain modifier. We have 3 hours. Hopefully I can get this done in 3 hours. There's some other stuff I have planned, some other minor stuff that still needs to be added. If we do this in under 3 hours, and then if it takes us more than 3 hours, what can you do? So what we need to get accomplished during this stream is we need to add a terrain modifier. So we need to have a chance for it. There we go. We need to have a chance for it to spawn on the start of a surge, and then we're not going to have them start immediately where they are. What's going to happen is they're going to start underneath the ground, and then over 2 to 10 surges, they're actually going to grow to whatever their full heights are. They were this one I'm not so sure on. This one we might have to see. This one we might have to see what we do with this one. What we definitely want to do though is we want to add in here we want to randomize their scale and okay, so randomize scale, randomize rotation. Randomize the rotata. Randomize rotation. And what that's going to let us do is we might have some basic shapes like squares, spheres, pyramids, what have you. However, if we're randomizing the size of them, their scale, and randomizing which way they're rotated, maybe even randomizing kind of their position so they're not always like in the center of a world section, maybe they can be somewhat towards a corner, more towards a corner, less towards a corner, and stuff like that. Random scale, location, and then let's do random position as well within some bounds. Okay, so let's go back to there we go, my streaming tab. So what that means is that currently the way it's going to function is if we have a world pedestal that is surrounded on all 4 sides, then this world pedestal, this world pedestal has now a chance to spawn some sort of terrain variant. And what we're going to do to improve this is that if we do this, we can only spawn the terrain variant generally in the center, because if we're also randomizing scale and we're randomizing rotation, we don't want any of these to be kind of poking out of the world. However, if we check all 4 of these surrounding squares, then suddenly, instead of only having this kind of center section, we have this whole large area to work with. So that's what we're going to be doing when it comes to checking where we're randomizing its position and how we're doing it. And I think that's mostly it for the explanation for what's happening. We just now need to actually get down to it. And my mind is blanking because I'm on stream. Explaining stuff on stream, perfectly fine. Trying to actually get stuff also done on stream is it's gonna make for an interesting time. All right, first things first, let's make the shapes that we need to make. So in here in our prefabs, we have some shape prefabs. We have our pedestals, our prisms. I think this is, yeah. That's what's used for the cascade. And basically all of these I've made, excuse me, all of these I have made myself just within Unity using Pro Builder, I think it was. Just going to take off 2D mode. This is what the shield looks like. And then that just gets thinner as the shield loses. All right, so we have our shape prefabs. Let's keep this all kind of neat and tidy and get a new folder for everything, because at the moment things are getting a little bit out of hand, right? You have all these different segments here, so let's make another one that's like world related. What was the world manager, world related? Let's just call it world. There we go. So we have world manager related. That little minus sign, that's just the version control. It just says that that's currently not going into version control. And so what we need as part of the world manager, we want to take, I mean, I guess for the actual world manager, it's not that bad because it's just like the 2 world sections. But considering that we're planning to add a bunch of new stuff, we're definitely gonna need more of that. Bounding trigger, these are also world related, world manager related. These active pedestals, that's what's in the world. That active pedestal, I'm just going to save this. There's no reason to save this scene. Okay, I'm going to go to our other scene, the core scene. So in the core scene, I can take it off of 2D. Here we go. Inner world controller. Okay, so in our core scene, this is what those inner pedestals are. This is all of the upgrades all at once. Why do I feel like there should be more? Is an upgrade missing from the final level? 10, 20. No, we're all fine. It just feels like it. It feels like there should be one more, but I think these are everything. Yeah, caster 5, caster 6. Yes, these are all the things. It's been a hot minute. It's been several months since I last worked on this. So I'm a little bit rusty as to what is where and how. All right, we're going to go into our prefabs now. Hang on. First, let's go back to our game scene. There we go. So our game scene is just mostly like a blank scene for whatever we need to work on. We have our the showcase scene is used for just some it's not actually like an in-game scene. It was just something that I was using to make images for the game's DLCs and the like. And then I spent so long trying to make this scene to where like you could just look at it like top to bottom, like kind of pulling everything in so that everything would be on one view, so I could make like a skill tree, like, you know, the skill tree in like Fallout 4 or something. I wanted it to be like, you know, one image that you can view. And then like I spent like a couple hours on this before realizing this does not look good. I'm just gonna do this and like grab it and be done with it. Like I ended up just making it in video and photo editing software. So that's what this scene's for. And now let's actually get to where that's the main menu. Okay, that's not the scene I want to go to. I want to go to the game scene. There we go. Alrighty. Yeah, wow. I'll have to see about actually doing these for Wednesdays, as my mind is super scattered all over the place as I'm trying to like talk out loud and also try and get some work done. So what is the first thing we need to do? We need to take one of these shape prefabs. So let's start, you know what? Let's start with just a regular circle. So we're just going to create a regular sphere. We're just going to create a regular sphere, get that back down to 0, 0, 0. There we go. What are we going to do with the sphere collider? So we do want everything to be on here, such as it is. What we are going to do is we're going to check the world section. And what we want off of the world section is we want ground column. Here we go, ground column. So we need to look for world section material. Let's see, sphere. And we're going to just look for, there we are, world section material. So then this will look more or less exactly the same. Okay, this will look more or less exactly the same as the ground plane. And we are just going to, what do we call this? Terrain modif, sure. Terrain model, sure. There we go. Terrain model sphere. We're just going to drag this over here, make a prefab out of that. And so here is what I want to achieve with this. We're going to load up into our scene, just so I can demonstrate kind of the idea that I have for this. Why is there no sound? Do I have sounds muted? I'm just going to withdraw. I think I might have sounds muted. Excuse me for one moment. Audio. Yes, everything's muted. No, nothing's muted. Why is sound not playing? That's a problem for another time. That's not something that I want to be fixing on stream, but is it? It's there. It's just incredibly faint. And I don't know why it's so faint. It might just be my audio settings. No. Yep, there we go. That would do it. The game is very purposefully like minimalistic and abstract, so there's not going to be a lot of sound, but there should be some amount of sound. There we go. Alrighty. That's maybe a little bit too much. I could do this in game, but for now, we're just going to keep it like this. And yeah, the sound is going to cut out anytime I'm not focused on the window. Alright. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a couple of levels. We are going to ignore all the surge stuff. There we go. And we're going to make one more level this way. I guess one more world section this way. And we're going to run it through one more, see if we can get like a larger square. Come on. Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, we can make a random square. We can make a square here. And now I can pause and demonstrate what I want the new terrain modifiers to do. So we have our new terrain model sphere. We can just put it into our world and it's just going to start at 0, 0. As you can see, very difficult to see it. That's kind of what we want. We want it to blend in with the rest of the world, and we don't want it to go much above where the world pedestal is, right? We don't want it to be hovering in the air or anything like that. Oh, this is, why does it look better in the preview? That's weird. it's literally easier for me to see it in the preview window on my OBS than it is to do this. Okay, anyway, so that's what we want. A good indicator there is you saw the edge of that collider, which is like around the midsection of the sphere. It's just below the ground, which is where we want to be. So around 0.498, we can just clean that up and just make it like a clean 0.5, and that should suit our purposes for everything that we need. And what we're going to do with this is, see, now we can just put it wherever. Let's say this spawns at the beginning here. We can, for instance, move it here and then increase its scale. Let's just for now lock in all of its dimensions and increase its scale by 4. That might be a little bit too much. Okay, see, this is why we test and we experiment, and we want to figure out what dimensions we can actually work with. Rotating the sphere doesn't really do much. As you might imagine, however you rotate the sphere, it's still going to be a sphere. You're not going to get much of a difference on the edge. However, you now have this terrain bit here that pokes out a little bit more than I would have. Not pokes out. That oh, come on. Get up there. There we go. Yaha! Now we're safe for all attack. Luckily, that we don't have the range to shoot at anyone from below the. God, that's actually like difficult to keep up with. So one slight problem. This is not doing exactly what we wanted to. You see how there's like the weird lighting reflections. That's because of how the ambient light is hitting it and all that kind of stuff. So what we might have to do is take our world material and change around till we get what we're actually looking for. So let's just do that right now. So we have our world section material right here. We are going to Control D to duplicate that. And then we are going to call this world terrain model material. Right, there we go. We have some, it's just a basic lit material. However, what we can do with it, once we put this in, there we go. What we can do with it is change around how metallic it is. So the metallicness determines how reflective stuff is. So if we make it more metallic, it's going to kind of reflect more of the light. Make it less metallic, it's going to be, we got rid of that kind of edge highlighting that kind of happens when it comes from the metallics, when it comes to the metallic stuff. However, this is now the wrong color. As you can see, this makes it more like that. This makes it more of the color it should be. So what we're going to have to do then, can I just make this, ooh, what if I swap this to specular? That's not really doing too much more compared to what I had it doing. Come on. Yeah, I probably still wanted to receive shadows. That's just going to make it look better. We're not going to have it emit or anything. Most of these other options, we don't particularly need reflections. Yeah, let's just go back to our metallic. We don't have to put smoothness. Oh, just completely, just completely change around how the thing looks. I mean, this could work as like a weird thing that appears in the middle of the map. This is something that could work. It does not, however, fit in with the rest of our map, so we're going to take that out. So I would like to get... What if we... Where's our universal render pipeline? What about simple lit? No, not quite. What if we didn't like... Oh, that looks so weird compared to the rest of the scene. I don't think I like that. Not to mention, because it's unlit, it's not really receiving anything from us being close to it. Okay. So we're going to go back to maybe simple lit. I think we just want to go back to our regular lit material. Reduce the metallic to 0, and then just take our base map and just pull down the dark value. That now seems even more out of place. Okay. All right. Well, welcome to game dev, everybody. This is the stuff that you have to do to try and figure out how all your stuff connects. Where are you putting stuff in? I'm just going to go quiet for a moment as I try and figure out exactly what I want to do with these. I think that could work if we turn it a little bit darker. Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. That looks... How does it look in game? That looks better. That's kind of more the material that we want. Do we want to make it... So, here's another option, though, right? We can make it... Do we want it to blend in with the world, or do we want to make it stand out? Okay, so we're gonna take this material, we're gonna duplicate it, and then we're gonna make a version 2 of it. And with version 2, let's just make it as dark as possible. We're going to make another one of these spheres. We are going to put it slightly more into the ground. And we're going to give it the V2 material. Okay. I think that's too much. Like, yes, it stands out, but I can see the vibe. I can see the vibe of it being kind of like an ulcer or something, which is what it's essentially supposed to represent. Something about, you know, as you're creating this world, things going wrong. I am desperately trying not to reveal the story when it comes to this game, because the story is very in the background. There is a story to this game. It's very in the background, and it's going to be revealed in like Castaway Soul 2 and 3, which already have like the subtitles, the sub names. I don't know what you would call that, but yeah, I already have names for the next 2 games, and I know about what I want to accomplish with those games. If I was to use that lit material like we have here, that would be too much. I kind of like the full black though. Let's see, can I change this a little bit? Whoa! Oh! Ow! Oh, that's painful to look at. That's a lot worse. Though I kind of like the idea of this, because when your character dies, they fall through the world. Big theme, rising and falling. They fall through the world, so this could be like, when you fall, you go into your inner world, and that inner world is all like white and stuff. So this could be it kind of peeking or breaking through or interfering with what's happening. I don't like it. I don't like... For one, I don't particularly want to introduce another color scheme, or rather another color into this, because this is very particular. Like, you can see here, it's very difficult to see the rest of the player and all your cooldowns and such. So white color here, very much a thing. We can try and make it yellow like the graphical numbers. That would also be... Would that be too far out of the way? I mean, we can try it. Let's see. Where is our graphical numbers? Is it the memory block? Yes. As you might be able to tell, I am reusing some stuff from a previous prototype I made. So some of these materials literally have not been renamed from that prototype that I made when I first started working on this. Our last world section should still have active pedestal, which should have the display attach point, which should have our graphical number. Have this, so yes, memory block outline material. So that's what we're looking for. So we can just take this color, copy its value. I kind of like that. That's very tempting. It adds a little bit more color to the map. It might be a little bit too much, but it kind of works, and it clearly communicates to the player that, like, oh, something, no, that's too much. See, now that I'm looking at it in game, that's too much, unfortunately. It looks pretty, and I like the extra color, but unfortunately it is too much. So probably what we're going to end up with is we're going to end up going with, come on, get up there, get. Okay, we're probably going to end up going with this instead. So what we're going to have to do is right here, this level of height might be a bit too intense. So what will end up probably happening is we're going to have to correlate how high they can go up with what their size is. So if they're a certain size, we need to restrict their Y value from going too high up. This is so tempting though. By the way, orange is my favorite color. Also, this orange I use in like a bunch of my other games and such, and so I want to keep that as a running theme in my other games, but we already have this as like the graphical number. So I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to have to keep with this. And I don't particularly, I might need to find later on some sort of shader or something, but for now, we want to do this quick and dirty and futz with it later. We want to get the basics, the outline working, and then for the actual look of it, we can work on that later. All right, yeah, let's see. Close that up. World model material, here we go. Yeah, that definitely kind of looks the best while still being kind of an obstacle. Alrighty, that's what we're working with. Do I want to add a square? I don't know if I want to add a square. Probably want to add a square. Okay. Right, now, into our world, we are going to take more of our prefabs, we have our world manager. So, ideally what I'd want to do is make the script first, but I don't quite have an idea of what exactly, how much I want the script to do. So what we're going to do right now instead is we're going to make the rest of our shapes. So we have our pedestal shape, which is this. Where'd it go? We have our pedestal shape. That's going to be, oh, okay, why is that so rough? Hang on. Pedestal platform, that's the thing that goes inside the pedestal, yes. We are looking for pedestal version 6. Yeah, there it is, okay. And at some point, we're probably going to want to change this up where it doesn't have these same lit materials. Right, so what we're going to want to do with our script is we're going to want to have a Boolean in our script that controls what these world terrains are. Because this one, rotating it in the, what is that? Rotating it in Y does nothing. And then rotating it at X is just going to cause problems for us. So that's the thing we don't want to do. So this is one of the shapes that doesn't rotate. So the square isn't going to, sorry, the circle, the sphere is not going to rotate as well. So we already have two objects that are not rotating, at which point we have to consider, do we even want our objects to rotate? How randomized do we want our worlds to be? We have our pedestal. We're going to futz with this a bit later down the line. We have our prism. We have our shield segment. Hang on. Why is that? Okay, why is that over there and this is over here? 1 second. There we go. So we are just going to disconnect this prefab. Was it unpack? Yes. What do we need for this? Inner steps material, inner main material, platform light material. Can I just, I probably shouldn't. So let's not. I was thinking, can we just remove these? But I might just have to do, what was this thing called again? World terrain model. There we go. Okay, there we go. That works. And then last one. Perfect. Okay. So now this kind of has that shape without it being unpack. The other issue with using this is I don't want it to be, this is a very specific shape that I use for entries. So I'm not sure that I quite would want to use this shape in the final version, because then there will be player confusion as to, can you step on this, right? Like they're going into the center of this and then nothing is happening. So the pedestal is an option, but for now, we're not really going to be looking at it too much. Here is our other option. We have our prism. For some reason, way more massive than anything else. Sure. This one, we also want to do our world material. There we go. So the nice thing about the prism is this one we do, because of how every angle is sloped, right? This one, we absolutely don't mind rotating every which way. Okay. The problem is the rotation. I thought this was center rotation, but apparently it's not. So this might be something we go into something like Pro Builder and fix it up, because that's not quite what I'm looking for. I would like it to be a center rotation, I think. That's such a weird, like I would expect it to be at the bottom or something. Why is the rotation in such a weird place? That's strange. But anyway, yeah, see, as you can see, you can imagine this in like the world pedestal. And so the player can easily like bounce off this, slide off this, not too much chance for them to get stuck. Then we have our shield segment. That's all at 0. I'm going to move it. So the one problem with our shield segment, it's specifically designed as a shield segment. So its center of rotation isn't where it is. Its center of rotation is designed to be to just place it directly onto the player model. And then as you rotate it around the player, for it to nicely go around the player without having to do any weird, wild calculations. Or, you know, it's like, oh, well, if you're putting it here on the player, then the X needs to move, and then you're attaching it here and there. So this was that kind of a solution for it. So we might have to go in and modify a bunch of these for what we're looking for. But for now, as you can see, we have this same sort of shape again, where you can just imagine having this, like those, or where did it go? Okay. But yeah, so see, you can just imagine, maybe not these particularly intersecting and the like. Ideally, we don't want these too much going into one another. They can, it's just I would prefer them not. However, you can see now we have a couple of different shapes that we can work with to make our terrain more interesting than just flat ground, to give the player a little bit more randomness and variance and a little bit more challenge. What might have to happen with this one, though, we finish, you're rotating it up to 90 degrees. We can just set this back to 0. What might end up yeah, see, this is the point where, like, I am unsure if I want to have randomized rotation or if I want to make a bunch of different prefabs all pre-rotated to angles that I know will not cause any kind of issue. That then becomes the question, because this is a weird enough shape to where we can just, I can just also unlink these. And for instance, we can make it do that. Now, just imagine that that's more of a center, but yeah, there we go. You have like a weird shape now if you don't keep it symmetrical. Okay. What was it? It was, there we go. 3 monoprism week 1. I think I'm just not going to have the pedestal. Yeah, we're going to take that out because I think that's just going to cause issues when it comes to certain player related things. Tell me that this is a different mesh. Yes. Okay, so if I do this, that should not affect. Yeah, okay. Those are, I think, considered different meshes. I hope. I really hope these are considered different meshes. Otherwise, we are going to have some issues. Fine, I have a backup. I have a backup of everything. It's perfectly fine. We can just make these changes and then not worry about it at all. All right, so what we want to do, center this pivot. There we go. That was easy peasy. And now when we rotate this, hey, it's rotating around a center. And then that's kind of the baseline that we want to be working from. No. Center pivot. Same thing for our shield segment. I'm going to go into the, can I not? What might be happening there? Sometimes, unfortunately, you have to like open and close these windows to get certain things to work. Yeah, there we go. And now we can center the pivot. And now as we're putting it in, as we're putting it into the world, it's going to There we are. That's what we want when it comes to building these world segments. Okay, and see, as we're working through this, we are now figuring out the limits of our script. So I'm looking at this and I want to have a range within which it can rotate, right? So let's say that this starts at 90 and we can just set all of these to 0. Looking at this, I don't want this to go much past like 20 degrees, right? So the way that we can rotate it in is plus or minus 20 degrees from our original 90. Because if you go too much past that, I think it will become too much of an obstacle. And on top of that, if you can imagine a line here, it's just going to be an issue with the player getting in there, possibly getting stuck, not being able to get out, which, you know, you could say it's skill issue, but at the same time, if a player just gets jammed in the world, then that's a game issue. All right. Shoot. I am going to have to go AFK for a little bit. Yeah, sorry everyone. I'm gonna have to go off, not offline. I'm just gonna like take you to the BRB screen and I'll be back in about 15-ish minutes. We're back. Hopefully y'all had some time to go grab a drink. I realized that like somehow an hour has passed. I thought it was 5 minutes. There's too much stuff to do and too much to think about. Like my mouth is dry. I've been talking for an hour nonstop. Oh, I think this is something that I might be able to do on a regular basis. We'll have to see. The unfortunate part is I don't know how much work I can get done. So much of my brain power is just like preoccupied with just being on camera and having to talk. Because normally the way that I work is what you're hearing me talk about is me having to put in like both my inner monologue and then several like spin-off thoughts all into like one coherent sentence that I can translate to the rest of you essentially. Like I can't just do, I guess, stream of consciousness talking as much here because the stream of consciousness isn't just the words that I'm saying. Like when I was making those models, I had to take a moment to describe. It's like, okay, now we're going to be thinking, where are we going to put in the limits? How are we going to put this into a script? Where do we like stuff like that? That's all stuff that I have to put into words, but in my head, that's just like automatic. That's just stuff that's like there's basically a running checklist in my head whenever I work on new stuff like this for, okay, this is what the code needs to be able to do and stuff like that. So it's gonna be an interesting time. It's gonna be an interesting time. All right, let's get back into it. And I'm just gonna move my drink here so that I don't accidentally spill it all over my keyboard. But nope, no. I forgot that I was streaming my... We can cut that out. It's fine. Hopefully that didn't show too much of anything. I forgot that I was just streaming this main window. Okay, we have these two more models. I think that's fine. The only thing we want to check, I would say, is did we mess up any of our other models? No. Okay, good. Those are all fully disconnected. That's not a thing we now need to worry about. So go back into a world manager related, put these into, there we go. Right, no, I need to set those to some sort of 0. Because if I don't set them to a 0, it's going to cause issues down the line. This one we do want a 90 though. And yeah, we definitely want to keep those all connected. There we are. Why is it like overrides? What would this do? Reset? Reset. No, that just sets it back to 0. All right, whatever. There we go. Okay, so we have our 3 components. We're probably going to have to futz around with them a little bit. Because as you might be able to tell, they're very much not the same size. Can I, in Pro Builder, a trigger set collider freeze transport? I don't know that I can reduce its size in Pro Builder. That's a material editor. Right, shoot, I forgot. I got a message from my sister. Shout out to my biggest fan, Colleen. Hello, Colleen. There we go. Gotta make sure I get that done. So we don't need to pro builderize it. Do we have yeah, I'm blanking on how to use Pro Builder right now. Hello? No, that's the... Is this it? This is it. Oh, here we go. Edit shape. Whoops. Right. Okay. Because this is something that we've made. Right. So what this shape is actually, it's a prism that's then been duplicated, flipped around, and put on the bottom. So we can't, unfortunately, edit the shape the way that I want to, and I currently don't have any kind of 3D modeling software installed. So for now, we are just gonna... That's too much. Okay, that's about the size that it needs to be. Though, honestly, what I should be doing is the default size should be this. So I should actually be bringing the shield segment, this shield segment, up to a larger size. There we go. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So I'm just trying to think how we want to do this. Do we want to have them just be... I don't think I want to have them be this small. What is the smallest we want them to be? Probably here. So what we can do with that is then we also need to have a... Whoa, that's... Okay, that's... Ah, these are all gonna... These are all like so different to where we can't easily adjust their scales, which is kind of unfortunate. We can fix this though. It'll use up a tiny little bit more memory, but I think we can fix this. What we're going to do is we're actually just going to create an empty game object, setting it at 0, 0. That's going to have a scale of 1, and then we're going to put our prism in here. Nope, nope, not the prism, the shield segment. There we go. This prefab, we are going to, well, we can call this terrain obstacle. And we can name this to something like, there we go. And so what this lets us do now, you can see scale is uniform. However, we can adjust where we want this to go, how we want its rotation to fit. And now adjusting the scale, it'll give us a sort of uniform value from which to work from. It's just me being silly for stream, but it still works. So we have the orb. What do we want its baseline to be? 2 seems to be fine. Maybe like 1.5, 1.6. I think 1.5 works because this pokes out more. So there we go. Now we have another one of our terrain obstacles, and it's about the size we want it to be. Going to create another empty. Move our prism. Come on. There we go. Moving our prism into there, making sure to reset everything to 0, and making sure to reset this back to 0. Yes. Okay, there we go. So now all of them were kind of different values. We would have had to work with like one would be like too small, one would be too big, this, that. It's an issue. So now that we put them all under this sort of parent object, we have one exact value to work from, and we know all of them are about the size that they need to be at scale 1. Maybe. Yeah. I think that should be fine. We're going to put that in here. Okay, there we go. So now we have our obstacles. And another benefit of this is no matter where the actual rotation points of those obstacles are, because we've put them in the center of our game object, they now rotate exactly how we'd want them to do. Alrighty, so on this, we're going to add a new script. We're going to call it there we are. So because of how we're now doing the models, we actually don't want the terrain obstacle controller to care about the model, right? We don't want it to know about the model. We don't want it to really manipulate the model too much. What the main thing we want this terrain obstacle controller to do is to limit its own rotation, location, stuff like that. Yes, that was the third thing. There we wanted to its rotation, its location, and then the other thing is the stuff like that. Alrighty, we're gonna pop open our terrain obstacle controller. Hello, Visual Studio. There we go. That opened up in my other window. Give it a moment for everything to load up. Okay, there we are. All right, gonna remove these for now. We don't need them. So what do we want them to do? We don't care for an identifier. We want to give them, am I covering the microphone too much? Am I like just really putting emphasis into the microphone when I do this? Shoot, my mind is blanking for all the variables that we want to have. All right, we're just gonna have at it. We want to keep a record of the transform, just so that we're not. Do we want to keep a record of the local transform? Not particularly sure that we do, but I'm gonna start with that. And then what do we need? Let's make a public Boolean for, yeah. Just thinking, do we need a public Boolean for enabling or disabling rotation when we can just set the rotation to be 0? Yeah, we don't need that for now. All right, what we're gonna do instead is a vector3. And then this we're gonna call rotation minimum. To 3.0. There we go. Rotation min, rotation max. This is how we want to do it. Let's instead do it like this. Remove that, and then we're going to have rotation range. Then if I save that, go back into Unity. Okay, now we can add two things here. So this can be, element 0 can be our minimum, and element 1 can be our maximum. Yeah, that'll work. And so what we would plug into these values is how much into the negative to rotate, how much into the positive to rotate at maximum. All right, that works. So now what do we want to do? Let's make a, what's called a private method. The first thing we want to validate if if rotation range equals null. So if it's not initialized for whatever reason, or rotation length is no less. Sometimes the autocomplete feature does not do what you want it to. All right, or rotation length is less than 2. So if it's 0 or 1, we are just going to return, and this will escape the method. And that's all of our checks done. We want to go into, do I have, one second, I just need to find, here we go. We want to add this to the log under terrain obstacle controller, name of rotate obstacle. Tell it that our rotation range has a problem. There we go. Don't care to actually add in anything other than that. And then we can go in and check, because it's either the rotation range is null or it's below 2, in which case we know to go here, go to this value, see what happens. Don't need more logging than that for now. All right, now what do we want to do with this? Shoot, my mind is very much blanking. All right, yeah, we're gonna push through. We're just gonna hunker down and push through. But I think this might be one of the last coding sessions that I'm gonna do, because personally, having to think about all this on the fly, my mind is just, for some reason, normally I'm fine doing this when I get in, especially when I get in the zone, and now my mind is like, nah. Playing a game, very easy to stream. Making a game, apparently very difficult to stream. Okay, so what we want to do is then pick out all of our randoms. So we want a, is it a vector? Is it a float? Oh, I'm gonna have to look up some stuff later on. For now, though, what we can do is we can take a float. Yeah. Let's do float rotation x, which is equal to, which one is it? I hate that Unity and System both have like random. It's like, which one is it using? There we go. Unity engine.random. That's the one that we want. Range, and then we're just going to do rotation range 0, and then rotation range 1. And for this one, we just want to grab the X. And theoretically, we can do this for all the other values. And there we go. Now we'll get a random float between whatever our minimum and maximum ranges are set. Now to use all those up, I am going to have to think. I have code for this somewhere. I just can't remember where. Right, okay. I have code for this. However, I am going to hide what's happening on screen, because it is, unfortunately, in a different project that I can't quite reveal yet. Is that the project? Yes, that's the project. All right, so that's in a different project that I can't reveal yet. However, we have all the code needed to generate us from those values an angle, and then apply that angle to whatever rotation we want it to be at. Eventually, at some point. Once the actual game loads up. Well, game project loads up. Okay. Where's the scripts that I'm thinking of? Yes, I think. Oh my God, I have so many tabs open in this Visual Studio, but we should be fine. Okay, so that's for direction and looking in a certain, I mean, I guess I could look in a certain direction. That's an option. But I think I just want to move them between specific angles. Here we go. Start alert rotation, go to definition. Okay. That's not quite what I'm looking for. I guess it is. Okay, where is this used? Hang on. Find all references. There we go. This is the one I'm actually looking for. Okay, find all rotation. Here we go. Okay. Yes, I think this should work for what we're looking at. Close this down. Not revealing any secrets. Go back to our main stream. There we go. And okay, so here's the code that we're looking at. It's not exactly what we need, but it's close enough. It has a bunch of the stuff that we are looking at. That we are looking for, rather. There we go. Main transform dot rotation. And then on... I don't think I need this. This is not necessary, I think. What we're just going to do is we're going to do... There we are. That's specifically a Z rotation that does A10. Not a thing that we need. What we need to do is... I mean, this could work. Just giving it the Euler. It sends a rotation that rotates Z degrees around the Z axis. Yeah. Yeah, I think this should actually be fine. The question is if our radians to degrees is going to work out how we want it to. All right, we're going to take that out, rotation to target, and then we can just, we don't actually need this. We can just apply our rotation to target from a float. Because we're already treating these as they are degrees, so we don't need to convert them from radians to degrees like we would if we were actually running something like that, A10, like their tan or cos or whatever kind of other calculation. Now the question becomes, yeah, let's just put a button and test this out. Let's just make like a little test thing. Here we go. Sometimes autocomplete really gets in the way. Okay, that's all we need. So we've put that onto our pyramid. What is our max? So our negative is, let's do negative 360. Yeah, we can just do, I think, negative and positive 360 on all of them. So we're just going to allow specifically this thing to rotate as much as it wants, as many times as it wants. I'm going to hide the other obstacles, and then in our UI, just going to slap on another button very quickly. Why am I not? It's just, okay. There we are. This is just some quick thing that we can put in to test out. If our thing does what we want it to do, and then on click, we're going to give it this terrain obstacle. We're going to go into terrain obstacle controller and then test rotate obstacle. Okay. Now, hopefully the whole thing doesn't blow up, which is, you know, a risk anytime you press the play button, and not a Unity specific thing. That's just like a bounced off. Okay. I mean, that's already kind of more fun, I will say. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Our object is now randomly rotating as many times as you want. We could do kind of smooth lerping and stuff like that. We don't care to, because the points when these are going to be coming out of the ground, when they're going to be appearing and the like, the player is just going to be in this screen. And so the moment they press this button, all of those terrain obstacles are going to do whatever they need to do, right? So that's going to cover them appearing, if they like appearing, and then on appearance they're just going to put in their rotation, everything, and then that's also going to cover them slowly coming out of the ground as the surges come along. Yeah, see, already this adds like a little bit more zhuzh to the levels, even adding something small like this. Okay, there we go. So that worked. So now we can literally just copy that and do it more times over. We probably want to limit this a little bit. So instead of 360, let's put it into like 300. Because as you saw, a lot of those rotations, they were a little bit too far below the ground. So we are going to limit a little bit the direction to which it can rotate. All right, we have our, I'm just going to close this. So we have our rotate obstacle. For pretty much everything else, it's going to be relatively similar code. We want to have rotation range. We want to have position range, and then we want to have scale range. Here we are. We're just going to copy this. Rotate. Cool. Error. And position range. Sometimes my Control V presses twice when it shouldn't. You can actually just rename these So don't need this for now. Don't need this. Instead of specifically naming them, we can call them this, and then we can make them a little bit more reusable. Oh, come on. Let's make it more code readable. So this is always kind of one of those things when it comes to how you write your code. Or do you want it to be more readable? Do you want it to be more reusable? If someone is working with you on the project, do you want them, like if you have rotate obstacle, position obstacle, scale obstacle, the method tells you what it does, and then does it matter that inside them it just says random XYZ? That's up to you to decide. Okay, so we have our random position now. We have our ranges for plus and minus. Yeah, we can just translate it, right? We can just do transform dot. Here we go. So we can just translate that, and to translate it, we are going to do a autocomplete. Why? XYZ. There we go. Okay. All right. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Position target, and we want it relative to the world coordinate system. Yes. We want it relative to the world, not to itself. The difference with that is if you do it relative to the world, it will change its coordinate as the world sees it. So if its coordinate in the world is like 1x, and you translate it by 1, then its coordinate will be 2. However, if you change it to space to be local, it will change its coordinate relative to its parent. So if we put this object inside something, then instead of translating across the world coordinates, it's just going to translate to whatever its internals is. So let's say we put it at world coordinate 1, but then its internal coordinate, that it's whatever it's parented to, its internal coordinate is 0. Instead of maybe moving to the world coordinate 2, it will just move to the internal coordinate 1. And if its parent is rotated in some weird direction, then it will move whatever the X direction for its parent is. So for these particular ones, we want them to be moving relative to the world, not to themselves. Okay, and there we go. We've just set up obstacle translation for moving into a position. What was the last thing? We needed to scale it. And so before we do that, let's just do a quick we're going to call this initialize obstacle. And in here, we are going to do all the things we want to do. And we're doing the position before the rotation, just in case, because the way that the translation works, it will change. Like if you rotate it so that the object faces this way, so that the X is going in this direction, and you translate it, that becomes a problem. What we want to do is we want to translate it to where we want it to be in the world, and then do the rotating and the scaling. rotate obstacle, and then we are going to have one last thing here. Go. We want to be using scale range. Okay. Oh, good. My keyboard isn't getting picked up on my microphone. Didn't actually test that before the stream. What we want to do is transform dot. We're gonna have to. Unfortunately, I don't think there's like a scale method. Set position and rotation. Transform, translate. Anyway. All right, nothing down there. Just trying to remember all the things that we can do with the transforms. I know about the translation. We might just have to get its position, make a new position, and then apply that. Yep, get local position and rotation. Okay. That's so weird that there's not like just a dot scale. Oh well. Dot. That's the local scale. And that's the global scale. So that one we can't really modify, but we can change the local scale, which for our purposes will work just fine. There we are. So we now have that, and we are going to scale obstacle. All right, and now instead of just doing rotate obstacle, we can just do initialize obstacle in our start. Test. So the positioning, unfortunately, we won't be able to test quite the way that I would want it to, because we're using translation. So every time we click the translation button, it won't take it from some 0. It will just keep moving it out. And the reason we have to do it that way is if we take our object and start moving it around, then if we rotate our main object, it will be in weird places because we've now moved the actual model away from the center. And so the rotation won't work the same way. So we can test the scaling, we can test the rotation. The positioning is going to have to be done just at the start of the map, and that's it. So there we go. We have our 3 main methods for the terrain obstacle. We're just now going to wait for Unity to run through. And okay, so position range, we want to add 2 there. What do we want to change on this? So let's change it from, I'm just going to, while I'm here, just going to duplicate that, add another button. This one's going to be the maybe the scale test button. Scale obstacle, there we go. Now we're going to go to our obstacle. Okay, so position range. We want to translate it positively in the X and Y. How much is 1? 1 isn't too much. We could probably get away with up to 2 for now. We can change these later. this is all just for testing, right? So all these values can be tweaked and balanced later. For now, we just want to make sure that our code is working and that we're getting kind of the values that we want. And to test that it's working, we want to get 1, near the values we would kind of want to be, and 2, kind of extreme values to see how it reacts in more edge cases. So for our minimum, we can do -2. The y we can leave untouched for its minimum, so it's always going to stay at 0. Z we can also do -2, and then this can just be +2. Okay, we're going to reset its x back to 0. And then for its scale range, what is like, oh, no. Nope. There we go. Constrained proportions. Right. We don't actually want to set different proportions by X, Y, and Z. So there we go. Immediately a thing that we can change. We don't need 2 of these. We just need a, for the scale range, we don't actually need a vector 3. We just need a float. We are. So we still need to have them be 2. We still need to have them be not null. And then what we're going to do is well, that's scale random. Random dot range between 0 and 1. And then that scale random we are just going to use for the X, the Y, and the Z. There we go. Okay, that should work. So now they're all going to scale to the exact same amount. We can later on see about maybe allowing for different levels of scaling, but for now it's not necessary. So we have our scale range here. Pop this open. So our minimum scale is, we're going to call it 1.5. And then let's do like 1.2 for our minimum scale. And then for our maximum scale, it's 4. And now let's see what happens. Whoa. Yes. Oh my goodness, look at that obstacle. Ah, okay, that looks cool. Oh, I'm liking this addition, and you can like jump on top of it and stuff. Yes. Alrighty. So what if we... Whoa. Whoa, that might be a little bit too big. But that's I like that though. That's funny. I am entertained by that. I'm assuming that's near its maximum. This actually makes it feel like really cool. And then we have all of our random rotations. Yeah, okay, and the X and Y seems to be working out just fine. Can I? Yeah, I can climb it. No, I'm up it. I'm at the pinnacle. Come on, tallest point. Tallest point, tallest point. Come on. Oh, this is not easy. This is very specific physics things. Come on. Whoa! Okay. Okay, yeah, this is whoops. Fun fact. If you have the UI clicked and you press space, that is a key that I have set up to allow you to click UI buttons so that you don't actually need your mouse hand. You can control the entirety of the UI with just WASD and space. However, because I last clicked the scale button, whoops. There we go. Okay, I've unclicked it now. Do we have enough speed to actually reach the... Nope. This is going to be so weird with this camera angle. The lighting and the interference with how it goes. Come on. Dang it. Okay. Okay. One great indication for if you should add a feature to your game or not. Are you having fun while testing it? Because I'm having fun testing this, so that indicates to me that yes, no, this is 100% like a feature that can be added. And see, now that I'm thinking about it, I was going to make it not too cluttered by only restricting it so that this can only happen at some points. So it can only happen if, let's say, all 4 directions of this are covered. But because I'm now looking at the scale, and if I make these massive, I think they're just going to be weird and awkward to play around. So I think I might just keep the scale at max to 4. And by keeping the scale there, what that allows for is, instead of needing to have all the stuff around it, I can just make it so, yeah, I can just make it so any of these pedestals can get 1 or more of these. And that could lead to some very interesting mechanics. And these are perfectly fine to put in large multiples of, because for one thing, as you can see, everything the player needs to see, all of its materials are drawn on top of everything else. So even if the player is completely behind it, they still have an idea of where they are. It does block the player a bit, so we want to use them somewhat sparingly, but we can put in more than I was originally planning to. And then what can happen here, for sure, is we can just... Oh god, okay. Okay. Okay, I'm feeling this. This is immediately making it like different and weird. The X and Y we can definitely expand more than just to be 2. How much can we expand it by? Let's see, we're gonna grab one of our obstacles, whichever this one is. And then instead of using our pivot point, we are going to use, let's see, there we go, global. So then we can move it around. So its X is at 0.48. So how far can we move it? We can move it up to like 4 without it being too much of a problem. So let's try that. So we're just going to delete all of these. And then instead of -2, we're going to do -4. There we are. I'm fine with how the scale goes. We are definitely going to have to add something in where we calculate the scale first, we save that value, and then depending on where the scale comes in, that's how far the element can move in. Because if the element is massive, it can't move too far. But if our scale is lower, then we can move the element more. Anyway, those values have been changed. Let's add a bunch more and see what happens. Oh, that definitely works. See, this is the kind of thing that I was afraid of happening, though. I don't want that to happen because I don't think that looks clean. But I am kind of in love with how this looks, like janky and broken up. And for those of you worried, this is not going to happen on a new pedestal, right? This is only going to happen on this is only going to happen on world segments that don't have a pedestal on them, because as you can see, the player is getting blocked from interacting with it, so they can't proceed with the game. However, just having oh damn, okay, yeah, I really like how this is turning out now, actually. I am going to have to figure out these limitations though. The thing I don't want it to have doing is poking out of the world like that. I'm just thinking if a minimum needs to be added. Because we can limit it so that it only goes up to 3, which I think will fix those issues. But then we can change it. We can change it so that no matter what, if it's like, if it's below a value of 1, so if it's between -1 and 1, make it so that it's at least 1 or -1 when we pull the random value. How do the enemies behave on this? Oh no, I'm stuck. Oh no, I can't run away. Oh wait, I can jump. Nice. Okay, we're gonna see if we can get ourselves a door in the... Oh no, the enemy. Oh, that's gonna be a problem. There we go. Okay, they can pop out of it. The enemy spawned inside the obstacle, which is another thing to consider. We don't want the enemies getting trapped inside these obstacles. Huh. Huh. How does this look when... See, like, once you've put this in, it is now fine. Yeah, this is one of those things where I'm going to have to go in and figure out all the things that can and cannot be added with these. Figure out all the limits, figure out when they're going to be spawning in and the like. Alright, so that all works. One thing we're going to do for now is we're just going to pull this down to... And yes, I could, for instance, make some sort of unified value where I could just put in like a float 3 and then in the code transform it to like, oh, be in between -3 and 3. But for some of these, I might want them to have different X and Z's. I might want them to go up or down. It's all going to depend on what I want to do later on. For the scale, I know I want it to be uniform. But for the rest, it's not clear. Now what we can do is get our terrain obstacle and we can apply it. And now our prefab has all the stuff. What do we do? Yes, that's fine to apply. All that's done is set it so that the scale can't be individually. If one of the scale bits changes, everything else changes. All right, time to get these other ones going as well. So we can just copy this component and put it onto all the rest of these. Paste. Component is new. Here we are. So, rotation. We absolutely do not care for changing its rotation. Its position, we do care, and then its scale. What is this? We want to link its scale, and then we want to, what's 4? Oh my god. Okay, we don't want it to be at 4. Oh no, that's 14. Okay. I'm like, how did 4 get this much? All right, that works. We're just going to reset its scale back down to 1. Scale range. For this one, we can have, I think a scale of 1 to 4 should be fine. Then in our prefabs, we can apply our transforms. The position range I think should be fine as well. We apply that to the prefab, and now we do the same for the penta. And so see, here is where the individual rotation comes in. So we want this one to only be able to rotate on the x-axis. So this way, we only wanted to rotate between positive and negative 30. Correct. So on the x-axis, we want negative 30 and positive 30. On the y-axis, yeah, it can rotate a full 360, whichever way. And then on the z-axis, we also want only 30. Now, for its position, that's fine. For its scale, it should also be fine. Yes. Okay, that works out. Now we can take this, we can apply to our prefab, and there we go. We have our 3 prefabs ready to go. For press play, all of them should initialize and just randomly scattered about so we can see how this works. Why did they all become massive? Well, that's unfortunate. That sphere still has... See, okay, this is fine. The penta's fine. Why is the sphere being, like, weird about it? Hang on. No, it's still world section. It's the same section material. Yeah, I might have to... For the world section material, I might have to just do a special material because it's giving me problems. I thought I got rid of that. I don't know why it's being weird the way that it is. It might just end up happening to where I can't have spheres because spheres have that weird edge lighting on them. It might just have to end up being straight lines, which is fine because the straight lines all tend to fit in with the aesthetic of the game. There we go. We're going to move that there. For now, I think I'm just going to take out the orb. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's such a weird thing. Yeah, and probably I'll be adding a square as well then. The orb is unfortunately a little bit of a problem with how I want it to work. How I want it to work out. So what's probably going to end up happening is we're going to be adding a square instead of an orb. Or a cube, I suppose. Yeah, that's fine. All of those are saved here in our prefabs. Right? Before we delete anything, we check that stuff is properly saved. Yes, okay, excellent. Alrighty. What is... Huh? Guess it's now not ignored. Anyway. So we don't want the orb, but what we want now is just to create... Alright, we're going to create an empty game object, call it... UV1. We are going to add a new 3D object. And I'm just looking at the things we have available. So unfortunately, we probably won't be able to do capsule either. It's going to have the same lighting issues as the sphere. Pretty much, Quellix. 99 bugs in the code. 99 bugs in the code. Take one down, patch it around. 108 bugs in the code around. We need something for like on the wall as opposed to bugs in the no, that still works. Anyway, sorry, distracted. We're going to add a 3D cube. Setting all of its stuff back. We're going to give it the world obstacle material. This is actually about the size that we want it to be. We have ourselves a simple box collider. Put that terrain obstacle in there. Ooh, what? Hang on. So we're gonna. So before we put that in, want to make sure that this is just reset back to 0, 0. There we go. Now we put in the cube, and now it's properly centered. If you don't do that, it's the local position of the cube is not going to be in the center of the object. It's going to be wherever the object was in the world relative to where the thing you're putting into the object is. So we just want to make sure those are reset back down to 0. I'm going to lock in our scale, and we are going to here paste component as new. So now we have our component. This one we can freely allowed to rotate 360 in every direction for the hex of it. Nope. All right, position range is fine, and then a scale of 4. This is what we want to. There we go. How big would that? Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Alrighty, we're gonna put that in, and there we go. We now have another. Yet another obstacle. I can't believe it actually. Wow, that's wild. That's actually wild. Also, this feels incredibly overpowered now because most enemies would not be able to reach you here. We might not be able to put in squares. Unless we limit the squares' rotation to a certain angle. Because again, if you can jump, you can just go up here and enemies will just not be able to hunt you down at all. Whereas for everything else, the enemies at least have a chance to come at you. No, unless the enemies spawn on top of the obstacles. There we go, that works. And safe. I am in no kind of danger. Alright, let's play through a couple of rounds to see how the enemies are going to behave with this. Right, so the enemies will now start getting stuck, which is not an undesirable thing. It gives us more opportunities to kind of, you know, manipulate the enemies around the map. When it's a flat map, you have relatively limited options. But now that we've added obstacles, it gives the player more control over what they can do. Can I just use this as chest high cover? I love that I can basically use this as chest high cover now. Alright, he's gonna get to us eventually. At this early level, most of the enemies don't have a lot of push force. So they can't come at us that well. Oh my goodness, okay, you know what? We'll figure out the chest high wall later. The question becomes, how overpowered are having these walls now? Okay, we might have to use them more sparingly because they appear to be very overpowered. It's an unfortunate thing that I thought might happen. These obstacles are basically a huge boon to the player, as opposed to being, you know, some part of it bad, some part of it good. They're just very, very helpful to the player. Which is not exactly what I wanted to have happen. So more testing is going to need to be done. definitely what will have to happen is there can't be more than one there can't be more than one obstacle in a world segment. Yeah, we are just, yeah, squares are probably gonna have to be out because we are just fully immune here. For very little effort, we are just like immune to enemy damage. Unless we can make sure it rotates at least a certain amount so that the player has to do something to keep, like, for something like this, right? You have this and you have to actually put in some effort to keep at this pyramid, and then same for this. For this, you need some amount of effort to be able to stay up here. And unfortunately, these obstacles might just end up trivializing the game. So, yeah, we're gonna have to use these very sparingly. All right, let's take out that square and see how it behaves. Sorry, we'll take out that cube and see how we can do without that cube. We'll see as the levels go on, because the way that I'm planning to do this right now, these obstacles aren't even going to start coming in until players get to at least the first boss. I mean, dealing with the enemy dynamics is more interesting if nothing else. And see, like, it will try and shoot at that enemy, but it doesn't check for obstacles in between because I don't have any. I've never had obstacles, so it just wastes a shot, which I'm probably gonna keep. Yaha! Can they even like ow? Can even? Oh no! Okay, they can reach me up here. That's good to know. What might have to happen with something like this pentagram, we are gonna have to avoid straight lines. Anything that can put up a wall seems to make the game a little bit too easy. Okay, here's the big test. Ow, 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 ow. Yeah. Go up there. I'm invincible. Yeah, these new obstacles. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Right, right, right. This boss gets more intense as he gets smaller. Okay, yeah. The obstacles, yes, my character is like fairly tuned up. You would not have this character at the beginning of the game. You would not be moving quite this fast and stuff like that. But just having the obstacles is making large swaths of the game much easier. There we go. I do like that though. So see, here's the trade-off. Normally, the way that you would beat that boss, right? It's like, let's pretend that this is the boss. So normally the way that you would beat that boss is because it thrusts towards you, but it has momentum. You essentially, to beat it, you have to just keep spinning around it. And once you figure that out, it's no longer really that much of a challenge. But if we have obstacles around, right? If, let's say, all of these tiles have at least one obstacle, the boss is going to be bouncing off those. They're going to be deflecting, moving around. It's definitely going to lead to more... It's going to take more skill. Some parts are going to be easier, like being able to just, you know, block off the boss for some amount and then still be able to shoot it. And some things are going to be more difficult, especially with the player having to maneuver, and especially as we start getting more enemies, because I had those obstacles and I still took quite a bit of damage. Ow. Whoosh. And then the question becomes, what happens when we introduce ranged enemies? Yaha. Okay, yeah, these ones is probably what is going to make the obstacles be tenable. Because you can't just sit on top of obstacles and not worry about it, because eventually they're just gonna they're just gonna come at you and fire away. Somehow I'm not dead there. Okay, I could really use a heal. Take that. Ow. Okay, so yeah. The point at which obstacles are going to start getting introduced, at which they could at all spawn, is going to be after the first boss. And then, once you've reached that the first time, then they'll be able to spawn everywhere. I forgot how these guys all clump up. That is very much an intended feature. And we're done for. Alright, but yeah, that works out. There we go. We have our shapes. However, that's probably going to be it for today. That's been a little bit of a preview of how the sauce gets made. Unfortunately, it's draining my batteries so much. Like, it's draining my social batteries so much more than I expected. I'm not sure that this is something that I can get done. However, as like something I do every once in a while, as opposed to every Wednesday, that might be doable. And then Wednesday, just spend the time either playing or presenting my games as opposed to actually working on the games. Maybe fixing the occasional bug. Yeah. 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 Okay, well, thank you everyone so much for joining me. Hopefully you learned something about a bit of coding. If you came here from the announcement on the Steam page, on the actual like Steam library from this game, hopefully you're a little bit hyped for the new things that are going to get added. I am hyped for putting this out on mobile, just because I'm curious how it's going to do on mobile, right? Because it's like, how is that audience going to take it? And what these new changes are going to do. Because these new changes, they're going to add a little bit more randomness, a little bit more. Before, it used to be very much a case of you didn't have to get that lucky, right? You had some idea. If you got to like the final boss, you have some idea of what's going to happen every time you get to that boss. You know approximately when the enemies are going to come in, approximately how their distribution is going to be. What I'm going to be doing now with these obstacles is now the maps are going to be shifting and changing a little bit all the time around, right? Because the plan with these ones is they're actually going to start at, let's say, negative 0.5y. So they're going to start like somewhat in the ground, and then as surges proceed, they're going to go further and further up till they get to some sort of final point, which might be, it might just be 0. It might be like 0.5. 0.5 might be too much. I kind of like having everything just sort of coming out of the ground. So it might just end up happening to where it goes from negative 0.5 to 0 and then we just use a random number to determine how many steps to do it in, right? Something like that could definitely work. I'm just thinking if I have the capacity right now to put that in. We'll have to see. You know what? One thing I do still have the capacity for. Okay, so those are all Pentapyra, orb, and cube. So these all we can actually remove. One thing I think I still have the capacity for. Yeah. To modify the world controller to at least add all of our new prefabs. Yeah, Here we are, and we're just going to make this a list. Oh, this is like the old paradigm. That's going to have to change at some point. For now, though, we can pretty much copy it, not worry about it too much. So this will tell us if something's going wrong with the... If we forgot to actually put in any of our terrain prefabs, terrain obstacle prefabs. What do we call this? Here we go. That's our check added. And then where would we want to do? So the way that it works is this requests a world section spawn, which picks out its spawn position from where it needs to go. All the world sections are added to the dictionary. Yeah. Okay. World manager, terrain obstacle prefabs. So one thing you can do is click on the properties. For those of you that don't know this shortcut, for now we're not going to have the cube. It was a little bit too overpowered. But the penta and the pyra. No. Yep. There we go. Okay, so we have our 2 terrain obstacles. We might see about adding more later on, but for the most part, it needs to be pyramid shaped, I would say. We can potentially get the square to rotate in such a way to where there's no like flat plane. That's certainly an option. And we'll have to see for the... Oh my God. My voice is actually hurting. I've been talking way too much. I'm not drinking enough. Okay, so where would we go next? We have a dictionary of world sections. So what we would want to do is we would want to go into something like world section controller, right? We would have the world section controller ask the world manager for a prefab for like a terrain obstacle. Then the world section controller would spawn it. The obstacle would move itself around to wherever it needs to go. And then we would have a method called tick or something, as you know, the ticking of a clock. Honestly, most of you probably don't know. Born after 2000, I don't know if you know the ticking of a clock. These darn kids can't even read like a regular round clock no more. Anyway, yeah, so what we'd have to do here is spawn up that obstacle, and then what would happen is there we go. The world manager would, at the end of a wave, go through all of its world sections. Each world sections would have a method called tick, and then inside that method, any obstacles that it has spawned would also have a method called tick. So then at the end of a wave, you go through all of these three and run them, and then what that would do is make it so the obstacles don't just appear, they will slowly rise out of the ground. Excuse me. They will slowly rise out of the ground depending on how many steps we want that to happen in, and that would add even more variability to the game. Yeah, that works. Okay, all right. I am way overloaded right now, so I'm just gonna have to end the stream, unfortunately. But honestly, that was fun. That was an interesting experiment. Unfortunately, not a very replicable experiment, because I am kind of like, that's surprisingly draining. So I don't think I'll be doing this very often. However, for those of you that might be interested, yeah, new stuff is coming out. I am an indie game dev, so check out my indie games, Eclectic Expansion Enterprise, and hang on, I can put these in chat. Why do I have to sign into chat? Dang it. 1 second. Now that that's hidden, I can do this. So, check out my games. So, Eclectic Expansion Enterprise and Castaway Soul. All of my games are available for free forever. However, if you like the games, a lot of them have, supporter packs to where you can just, chip in a few bucks here and there. I think the cheapest one is something like $2. The most expensive one is like 15. If you like the game, if you enjoyed them, if you want to see more games like this, then, support goes a long way. But stuff like this, like coming in, watching these videos, like watching the live stream, all that kind of stuff, any kind of support helps, because at the end of the day, I just want to bring like joy to people. That's why I make games, is I just want to bring fun to people, and so that's why all my games are available for free and for as long as possible. I am currently in a very privileged position in that I have a place to stay. I have a place to stay, and I don't have to worry as much about finances. So as long as I possibly can, I'm going to try and put out my games for free. And hopefully we can just keep that going, and enough wonderful people donate to where I can make this, an actual full-time job, and just keep making games and putting them out for free for everyone to play. And then just have a couple of wonderful souls, keeping it all going. Or, a couple wonderful souls, couple 100 wonderful souls, couple of 1,000 wonderful souls. Okay, that has been enough of an outro. I have been FaZe D with Interactive. Yes, this is technically my personal channel, but it's kind of all intertwined because Interactive is currently just me, so we'll see. Anyway, yeah. Tomorrow will be Escape from Tarkov. We're continuing more of our hardcore and mastery lockout playthrough, and then Friday we'll actually be doing a collab stream of Planet Crafter with somebody from one of my discords. It's going to be fun. I'm actually quite looking forward to the Planet Crafter thing. And then at some point, if we do a collab, it might be Aliens. What was the name of that game? Aliens Fireteam Elite. I love that game, and I'm looking forward to actually playing it on stream. I think it should be quite a bit of fun. But that's it. This is like the 4th time that I've clapped and said all right, and was about to end the stream and then thought about something else to say. I'll see you next time.